Batman 128. Chip Zdarsky writing, Jorge Jimenez on the art. So you've not been here for the first couple issues of this Batman run.
I read it all this week.
Well, brief summary of your thoughts on the previous issues before we...
Intriguing. I'm not completely sold yet, but I'm open to seeing what it does.
Yeah, I thought this was a roller coaster because I liked the first issue, but it didn't blow me away. Basically the robot came out at the end and I went, oh, what? And then next issue it was like, oh wait, it's like a Terminator hunting down the Bat. This is actually kind of awesome. And then it dropped the Zur-En-Arrh thing on me and I went, oh god, what's it doing now?
Yeah, that's where I was like, okay, now I'm really intrigued because what?
And the last issue where we sort of had this explanation that the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh built this thing, which is why regular Batman doesn't know about it. It was like another part of his mind that did it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, I suppose. And then this issue kind of like catapults things a bit further with like the fall. Obviously, the last issue ended with Superman showing up. And the first thought that me and Matt had, of course, which is the first thought Batman basically has, is like, yeah, but if Batman built this thing, he probably built it because this is all very much like Tower of Babel, but he built it for himself.
In previous issues,
it was they weren't hiding that comparison, obviously, but this is basically Tower of Babel, but for himself. But naturally, it's also designed to handle all the other members of the league should they try and interfere.
Just in case, yeah.
So there's a fun little bit at the start where Superman tries to fight it, and
stabbed with kryptonite.
Yeah. And then Ollie shows up, and Martian Manhunter shop, Dinah and Hot Girl they're all trying to fight it. I actually kind of love this page of like Batman and Superman just lying, both dying together in pain, and Batman
like, you good? It's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. There was almost like a comic relief element to them, just sort of like cutting back to them lying and be like, "Hey, Clark, are you alive? Yeah, but you, Bruce, are you alive?" Like, I don't know. I got a chuckle out of it for whatever reason. So Bruce is able to crawl over and like pull out the kryptonite, but he's like, hey, he needs like, Fortress of Solitude surgery to like mend them up and stuff like right now. So Tim and Oliver, Tim Drake that is, just in case because I've not mentioned him yet. Go to the Justice League jet, put them on it, and take off. And yeah, so Failsafe's in Gotham. He flees the Justice League members. Nightwing's chasing after it. Oracle's there, calling shots. The 4 Justice League members we mentioned are chasing after it. But when they get to this city street, like all of a sudden there's like guns popping out of the side of the buildings. There's like a very specific like defense for Black Canary that covers her mouth to stop her from screaming. It's kind of like a respirator, but it's like designed to like limit her breath.
Mostly suffocates her. He even mentions that there's enough oxygen for her to live, just not enough for her to scream, which sounds plausible than something that Batman could do.
Yeah,
right?
And at first I thought, oh, did he just launch that? And then obviously Babs figures it out that, oh, Bruce owns this street or did own this street, and all these defenses were built. Like Failsafe has all this at his disposal. This is like a trap street for the Justice League. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, that's interesting. So, and actually, I really liked how that scene ends as well, where like Oliver's like, well, what about us? Because like all the superheroes, like Justice League members get taken down, but Oliver's looking at Dick and goes, yeah, but what about us normies? They don't have powers. And then like Failsafe's just like, oh, that just come over and beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Basically.
Good robot's gonna do that.
I know. I like the kind of there's no special like plans for you guys because you don't have any special abilities to worry about.
Yeah, I don't need one. Just beat the shit out of you. That'll do.
So Bruce is like, I've programmed the jet for the fortress. Tim, you need to look after Superman. Do not follow me. So Tim's not happy about it, but Batman dives out the plane into the water and sets off a beeper or something for Aquaman to come and get him.
Yeah,
and he wakes up in Atlantis 2 weeks later. He's been out in like a medical pod for 2 weeks, like healing from all of his wounds.
He's had fish healing him.
Yes, state of the art fish, fishy. Yeah. Shut up. Look, the point is that he wakes up and he's healing, and we find out in this 2 weeks, and this is the part where it takes the sleeper. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. Is Failsafe is taking over Gotham, and it's kind of like a like a one robot led security state now, waiting for Batman to return. Like it's got most of the heroes are all like imprisoned except one or two that are running around. You see like Cass and Duke running around in the alleys like in secret. But otherwise, they're all like imprisoned, and he's smashed the bat signal. And the end of the issue is like him using like a bunch of light drones to make a giant bat signal in the sky, and it's basically "Come and get me, Bruce," kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of lost me a little bit here because this feels like a beat that we've done, obviously a lot in comics in general, but specifically recently, this feels like the end of the Tom King. That with the City of Bane stuff.
Even specifically Batman, because it made me think of No Man's Land a little bit as well.
Yeah. Obviously, that was in the more general Batman stuff, but like recently with the City of Bane, even there was stuff in, I can't remember which metal event it was. It might have been the second one. It was the miniseries where we followed Dick. Like there was a lot of that stuff going on there. It feels like a pretty. I don't know, like a little bit of, I won't say overdone because it's not like exactly the same as all these, but just familiar enough right now. I mean, even the well, going back slightly further when Tynan, I think it was Tynan that was on tech at the time, with the future Evil Tim stuff.
Yeah.
Like, again, very familiar with that there.
I think it all just kind of depends for me on like how it actually plays out when like is Batman going into the city to take him on? Like how does that? Because I wasn't necessarily thrilled when they revealed Failsafe at the end of the first issue of this arc, but then the second issue was like, no, this is like a Terminator hunting down Batman, and all the Bat family are jumping in and getting their asses kicked. Like I actually really enjoyed what they did with it in the next issue. But
which was this isn't inherently bad.
No, it feels like a bit of a swerve to like a new idea that I wasn't seeing coming. I thought it was just going to be more like Failsafe takes out some Justice League members, and Batman keeps being on the run.
And now it's Failsafe has Gotham. Now get back in there. So, yeah, and again, like I said, it might be really good still. Like I say, the Failsafe stuff so far has been pretty solid. It's more just as a cliffhanger, it doesn't leave me particularly excited. It's more now it's got to prove itself and overcome this cliffhanger as opposed to building off of it and leaving me in a positive place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still impressed with a lot of things that Zdarsky's put in this arc. So even if I end up not loving where the arc ultimately goes, I'm still kind of pumped for like what else he's going to do with the character, because like there's a couple of times where he's done something I don't know if I like that. There's 2 issues out of 4 have ended with like a cliff. Well, 3 now I guess, but 2 out of 4 have ended with a cliffhanger where I've went, oh, I don't know about that. And then the next issue I've went, you know what? Actually, it kind of worked for me.
It is, and there's, I mean, yeah. So far, I'd say the odds would suggest that they'll probably do the same again, with the next issue of this, where you'll go, do you know what? That kind of worked.
Very, very possibly. Which he's playing with fire in a weird way, but maybe he doesn't see it that way. Maybe he likes the cliffhangers, but it's just kind of funny that we're like, I don't know about these. Oh, no, I actually ended up pretty good.
It's actually kind of interesting that if it does keep delivering, it'll get to a point where you'll stop feeling worried about the cliffhangers because you'll be like, it's fine, it always delivers. And then it'll not deliver one time and it'll feel so much worse.
Yeah, but at that point it's like, well, 1 out of 20 or whatever is fine, so it's whatever. I'll forgive it.
It's going to happen at some point, and maybe it's this time, maybe it's later, who knows.
But that's the thing, we're not saying like if I don't like what this does with this story, the next issue, it's not like one weaker issue out of however many. It's specifically one weaker follow-up issue where previously he's had questionable cliffhangers that have turned out to be great. It's a really specific metric. So even 1 out of 3 on that scale is not bad, actually, all things considered.
Yeah, it's such a unusual, I don't want to say complaint, but critique. Because it's very rare that I'm so cautious about a cliffhanger and then it completely wins me over. And even rarer that I can do it like twice in a row. Maybe 3 times. We'll see soon.
Maybe 3. We'll see. But I mean, the action, of course, was good. It wasn't as because I like the second issue of this, which was the car chase and the Bat family like coming in one by one. Like I thought the action in that issue was phenomenal in the way it was drawn and sequencing. I think,
obviously, we had Jimenez doing quite a bit on Batman during time stuff, but he does such a great Gotham. that I'm enjoying having him back again.
There was just lots of really good action set pieces that were really well laid out, and I felt like the big moments playing off. This one doesn't have as many of them, or because we're kind of doing different things. But like I say, that cut to them lying on the floor as the other League members are fighting was a good moment, and it's like another example of just how well structured. And I'm assuming this is also on Zdarsky as a writer as well, that he's kind of setting this up for Jimenez to.
I actually really like Jimenez's Superman as well. Like the very first panel of the book, it looks like an older Superman, not like really old, obviously, but like slightly older than what we maybe typically see, but with his kind of rougher lines that Jimenez have that kind of plays really well with the colors in this book, but we don't tend to see it with characters like Superman. I think it looks really good.
Yeah. The whole angry dad thing at the start as well, and the narration was a neat touch. Yeah. So no, I mean, I enjoyed the issue. I once again, I'm saying that I don't know how I feel about what this issue does towards the end, but we'll see. Obviously, there's a backup as well, which is also by Zdarsky, and this is basically the Zur-En-Arrh, or I think it's called Zur-En-Arrh Year 1 or Failsafe Year 1, but it's basically this idea of when Zur-En-Arrh first started appearing. It kind of ends at this point where is the Joker aware, and is the Joker kind of like become more unhinged because he knows Batman's more unhinged now at the end. That's kind of how it wraps up. I wouldn't say there's too much of a story. It's a little bit kind of scattershot of like Batman's mind thinking about like who he is and what's going on right now. But
nice art though for it.
That's good. Old school vibe, the smaller ears and stuff like that to give it that sense.
Yeah, a little bit Francavilla-esque with the colours. Bel Air doing the colours there, I see, but I think she's doing a good job of like replicating that feel that you get from that sort of story.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't really have much to say about it, but I did like the moment where he's with Gordon and he's looking at the photos of like the victims of the laughing gas that the Joker's used, and he notices that there's something wrong with it. He says it's a fake smile. And you sort of get the sense that the Zur-En-Arrh Batman's like the one in control, or is starting to creep through, and I kind of like the feeling of that towards the end of it. But I don't have too much to say on it as a whole. It's just there's not a lot in it, and it's like 8 pages or whatever it is.
No, it's the sort of thing that maybe as a whole, once there's a couple of parts to it, it might feel like a decent chunk. But as is, it is a bit too short to really get anything in any meat in it.
Yeah. All right, what are you rating Batman?
I think I'll give it an 8, just about. I think 7.5 would have been there, but I think the art kind of just not pushed it up a bit.
Yeah. I'll give it an 8 as well. Like I say, some trepidations about the direction at the end, but it's still very enjoyable and good art and sequencing. So, yeah, good stuff.